Hello everyone, so I don't usually review these anime episodes because, well, I'll be honest, I have a hard time not spoiling stuff, but I will make sure that no spoilers are in this video. Okay, so we have 3 fights I believe going on, technically 4 but 3 complete ones, so Tsuyo and Tokoyami versus Ectoplasm, Ojiro and Ida versus Power Loader, and then there's the Momo and Todoroki versus Aizawa. Now what is really interesting in this section of the series is how we see the students adapt to two-man teams, kinda like how they had to pair up in season 1 where they had one hero team versus a villain team, but here we see them actually going up against a pro hero, which of course raises the bar a little bit, you might say. Because they've not really had that much experience when they have to give it their all, because like Ectoplasm tells Tokoyami and Tsuyo, they're not going to be holding back against them. Now the reason for that is of course that these students need to get a taste of what it's going to be like if they happen to encounter a villain, because you never know if that is going to happen. Some of them did encounter Stain, and then there was the USJ arc of course, so they have kind of had a taste in villain activity for sure, but at the end of the day, those were small samples of what life of a hero could be like, because at the end of the day, at the USJ arc, you still had Aizawa, All Might and a bunch of pro heroes saving the day. They didn't win against the villains on their own accord, even if they were able to keep them busy for a while. And the Stain fight only included Ida, Todoroki and Deku, so the others can't really get any credit for that really. So this end of term exam is crucial for their growth as a hero, because as they've been instructed, they can try and apprehend the pro hero that they are fighting with the handcuffs that have been given, but there is also a second option, which is to actually escape through this gate that all of these levels have, but while making it for the exit, the respective pro hero opponent will do everything in their power to stop them. And we see this being very well done in the anime, I'd say. As a manga reader, let's just say that this part, when it was happening in the manga, it didn't really show things as clear as the anime does it, so I'm glad that I got to see things better portrayed really. The manga does a good job capturing emotion, and even fights can be really good, but when it comes to scenery and things like that, I would definitely say that the anime is vastly superior. Okay, so let's begin by talking about Tsuyo and Tokoyami's fight, because it's probably my favorite in this episode, even if it wasn't the most important one. I mean, don't get me wrong, all of these fights are important, but if you look at them from a different angle, the Momo and Todoroki fight is definitely the more emphasized in this episode. So yeah, Tokoyami and Tsuyo, their teamwork in this episode was absolutely amazing, let's just say that. Because we have this really interesting exchange of mobility assists going on through Tokoyami throwing Tsuyo around, and in return, Tsuyo swings Tokoyami with her frog tongue. I believe this was the first time in the anime where it was showing just how good Tsuyo actually is as a hero, because up until now she's not really been focused on all that much honestly, which is a shame. But lo and behold, this week we finally got some proper spotlight, both by showing us how she plays the hero game, but we also have it explained to us that Tsuyo is exceptional in the way that she has no noticeable weaknesses, so she is a really well balanced hero. Good mobility, assisting capabilities and other things like that. Even if she isn't the strongest offense hero, I mean, not all heroes go for the offensive style anyway. Like, we obviously have Mineta and Toru, who are both not very suitable for being on the front lines, so to speak. Which just shows that as long as you have some way of contributing, you can be of great help, which is exactly what a hero should be doing, helping people. It's not a game of who's stronger and better, even if some heroes wants to show off their prowess like Bakugo or Endeavor. Tokoyami on the other hand actually has weaknesses that are noticeable, well technically more than one. His quirk alone has a weakness, which is light, we know that much. The more light that is shone on Dark Shadow, the weaker it becomes, and Ectoplasm's copies seem to be radiating some form of light upon forming, so that probably did make him perform worse than he probably otherwise could have in this fight. But despite that, I would say that he did perfectly well. I mean, as I said earlier, he was able to coordinate really well with Tsuyo by swinging each other around, so that quirk weakness really didn't matter much at the end of the day, I'd say. Not only that, but their combined thinking managed to outsmart Ectoplasm by tricking him into thinking that Dark Shadow's final attack was an offensive move, when really he was coming in for the cuffing. So even though both Tsuyo and Tokoyami were restrained, their quirks were perfect for that type of plan. Had it been any other duo, it may not have worked, but that's another thing about this practical exam. They're supposed to shine in their own way. It's not necessarily supposed to be equally easy for everyone, depending on how you decide to use your skills as a hero. As we saw with Kirishima and Sato last week, they went straight forward hoping it would work, but as a pro hero you're not that easily defeated, and it cost them the round quicker than it actually started. Okay, so I'm not really going to be talking about Ojiro and Ida since the round was over very quickly, although still very clever work, but you know, I think we all want to talk about Momo and Todoroki going up against Aizawa, right? I know I do, even though it wasn't even my favorite part in this episode. So pretty much we have Todoroki, who has a very powerful quirk, even if his control with his fire isn't perfect yet. But his ice is pretty damn strong, and then there is Momo, who's not weak by any means, but she lacks confidence in her own abilities, which as a result causes her to become less than she actually could be. Her quirk is kind of interesting since she creates things by essentially thinking about them, I guess you could say, but she needs to know how they're made, like what materials are used and things like that. So there is some thought process required if she's going to make something really spectacular, which is why we mostly see basic things from her, because typically when she makes anything, it's in a fight and most opponents wouldn't let you just come up with something amazing. They will go in trying to stop you. Fortunately for Momo in this fight, she had some prepared goods that she made before Aizawa found them, which were disguised stun grenades. I mean, personally, I think that disguising them is a really brilliant move, given that Aizawa could have simply closed his eyes long before they activated if he had seen what they were in good time, but by disguising them, Momo obviously takes away that advantage. Her confidence level did definitely increase a lot in this episode alone, which I like because she's not really the character that a lot of people are looking to when they think about a memorable female in Class 1A, and it's a shame given that Momo was not only coming to UA through recommendation, but her quirk can be extremely broken if she learns how to use it right. This week we see how she goes from just running straight for the exit to actually turning back to Todoroki because she didn't want to leave an ally behind, and this is something that no other teams so far anyway have really been doing. I mean, Ida and Ojiro is a good example, since Ida pretty much launched Ojiro through the exit gate while he himself was left behind. But Momo didn't want to do that. Instead, she comes back for Todoroki because she wants them to finish together or not at all, pretty much. At least that's the mentality that she's having. Later on in the episode, we see how this move actually pays off as they team up in order to apprehend Aizawa, but they don't really use the handcuffs. Instead, Momo comes up with an interesting strategy through her and Todoroki's quirks together. Obviously, Todoroki generated a massive ice to cut themselves off from Aizawa so that they could have more time to think, and this is where we see Momo's quirk come in handy. She tells Todoroki that the fabric she's creating is similar to the one Aizawa has around his neck, and they have this interesting property where heat will pretty much cause the wraps to just tighten or whatever, which we see as the catapult that she's also made fires these wraps right on top of Aizawa, and Todoroki's flames, which obviously heats it up, causes them to wrap around Aizawa in such a fashion that he's no longer able to move, and that wins them the round. This episode, in my opinion, was pretty damn good, but we've got 3 more weeks of season 2, so expect the remaining fights to be glorious, especially next week since we're going to be getting Mineta and Zero against Midnight given what the preview showed us, and most likely Ochako and Aoyama as well. I'll most likely review the remaining episodes of season 2 even though I'm not a regular episode reviewer, simply because these last episodes are all going to be fucking great. Trust me, I know, I'm a manga reader. So even if you don't read the manga, if you like this review, just keep an eye out next week for Perm. Anyway, with that said, I'll be ending the video here, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. And as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you soon.